We are continuing and hopefully finishing up on Kapitel Mem.
Which is 46?
40.
40. 40?
Yeah. We're almost finished the Sefer. Okay, we are on Posik. We'll start with Posik Yud, I think. Should be pretty close where we left off. All right, maybe give a little bit of an introduction. We're always giving introductions because we're always getting a little deeper, to understanding what's really going on here. So this particular capital really hit me very strongly in a few ways, because what we're talking about here, talking about the Geula, is that we're working from the bottom up, and we've seen this in a few of the capitals. That he starts on the bottom spheres and he's working up, to the top, and he's also combining the top with the bottom and making connections between them. So what's the significance of that? So the thing that what the Kabbalah is really trying to point out in general. Why do we learn Kabbalah b'chalal? What's the whole point of it? Is that there's simultaneous levels going on in reality in general, the way we experience life. And we have to appreciate the depth of just how deep it goes, and try to experiencing things on a deeper level than the superficial level. And as a person matures and they become more aware of what's really going on, they start to get a deeper insight into, they start to seek a deeper insight of what's really going on, what is, how to deepen that experience. So we're appreciating on a different level, and we're also connecting it with Hashem in a much deeper level. So what comes out with this is a few things. Is that first of all, there's a structure to the way Hashem set up the whole Bria, starting with this infrastructure, this foundation structure, which is a kind of more abstract, which lies underneath everything. And then he built on that, and he developed different layers, one corresponding to the other, to the point where we get to the point where you could experience it even on a superficial level, and even on a physical level, just looking around and identifying things and naming things and responding to things in the world just without thinking any deeper about it. But with kind of giving us the intellect and the desire to go deeper. So that, and giving us the Torah to show us how to go deeper if we seek it, but in other words, giving us the capacity to understand on a deeper level, and giving us a desire to understand on a deeper level, and giving us the tools to be able to understand on a deeper level. But we have to exercise our roots and to do that, because we have to be, desire strongly enough to penetrate, those things on a deeper level. But then once we do, we're rewarded for that by all of a sudden seeing that things are much, much more there than that meets the eye, and coming to a much, much deeper, again, appreciation and connection with Hashem, because we see that He put this all together for our sake in order to have this connection with us. So the idea is that in order to talk about Geula, the Geula is only possible, is only shayach when we bring everything together. It's first of all, it's a revelation and an understanding of what's going on multiple levels, so that we're not just experiencing life in a superficial way, and also to have all of those levels covered, because nothing is extra. Nothing is.
This is a personal Geula or
both, obviously. Both. Or that's the point. It's got to be both. It can't be just one or the other. So the idea is that there's an idea of completeness, and the idea that there's nothing extra. So we talk about lower levels and higher levels, but everything is equally essential. I mean, there can't be anything left out. It all has to be part of the picture. So for the very fact that a person can look at their lives sometimes and say, well, look, that wouldn't be so bad to give it up. I wouldn't mind going to Olam Haba, right? So that's a person really has to just think about this. A person has to look at his life and think, would I want to do this for eternity? Would I want to live this kind of life for eternity? Is something that I want to be stuck in, for that long, without an end. And if we come up with a negative answer to that, it's only because we don't appreciate how deep it really is. In other words, if we really understood how amazing this whole thing really is that Hashem set up, we would see that it really is possible to go forever, and never run out of what to do and what to experience and what to and how to experience this whole thing. But the very fact that we don't look at it that way is just an indication of how limited we are in terms of how much we perceive of what's happening. So obviously, what we're talking about in this kapitel particularly is that we can only do this, we can only reach these higher perceptions by asking Hashem to open it up for us. And it's only going to happen in terms of, the Geula, Mashiach, and everything else, because there is kind of an intentional, or I can't say intentional, but we're the victims of all of the Averis of the past Doiris in terms of the things that have cut us off from that kind of perception, all the masks and all the curtains that have been put in front of us that we haven't been able to perceive that. So all of that has to be wiped away, and only Hashem can do that. And so we're asking always that we be enlightened and be illuminated,
Hashem.
so that we'll be able to all of a sudden our eyes will be open and we'll be able to see and experience the things the way they were intended, to be seen. Hashem did not set up a superficial world. Hashem set up that as only the tip of the iceberg, and with the intention that we should have the desire to dig deeper and reveal, more and more. Okay, so that's kind of an introduction to what we're doing here. So the other beautiful thing here that we're talking about is that we mentioned before, is that David HaMelech had a very active life, a very dynamic, very dramatic life, and he experienced a tremendous amount, on all different levels. And the fact that he's putting down into Tehillim his experience in terms of these extremely life and death situations that he was confronting all the time, and also these extremely high, perceptions that he's bringing into, his emotional and his spiritual experience of reality, and how he's bringing that into song.
It was his first Gilgal, am I right? What they say he was a new and.
Could be, because this idea that the Mauritian gave him the 70 years, from his own life, so to give him his life. So otherwise he wouldn't have this.
Adam Rishon.
Adam Rishon. Yeah, he lived 930 years. He was lived 1,000. So they could be. I haven't seen it specifically. This idea that he was a regular Revi of the Kisar Kova. There's all kinds of things. Anyway, but what I'm saying is that he brings all that down into Tehillim. So when we learn Tehillim on a perspective of this kind of a Peirush, he's revealing all of a sudden this other level that's underneath everything, and then that allowing us to make those connections between experience and, so we're not, so what I always try to do, and I think that this, I try to make this interesting, why it is interesting, I think, is because I'm trying to not just deal with an abstract way. There's a way of dealing with Kabbalah in just basically jargon. It's just basically, labeling this and labeling that, and almost in a mathematical way showing the connections between this and that. And it's also fascinating as a chachma. It's very fascinating. But in terms of a way to really change your life and to experience reality, internalize, right. And make it more of a personal thing. And because this is song, this is tefillah. This is we're coming with this to Hashem, and we're talking to Hashem with this stuff. It's not just rattling off some kind of formulas about how this relates to that. Okay, so that's I hope that's coming through. And if you feel a little detached, like it's not connecting, then let me know. We'll try to get it deeper into it and try to figure out what's going on. But anyway, the way he's bringing it, the fascinating thing about this Peirush is that he brings in connections between phrases and words within the same kapitel with other kapitel, and the way that he repeats things and this and that, and things that you probably would very easily not have noticed, except in the context of a Peirush like this. But then you see that it's really there. So, for example, so he says, "Bisarti tzedek bekul rav." And then we see, just a couple of psukim later in Yud Aleph, he also talks about the Kol Rav. And here he interprets it two different ways. What Kol Rav means here, and what Kol Rav means there. And then he also talks about Sfusai Lo Echlo. And then later on, in the next pasuk, he says, in Yud Beis, he says, Ata Hashem Lo Sichlo, the same word. Lo echlo and lo sichlo, the same word. And then he talks about is Amarta, Amarti, and Amarta, and we said that it's like Hashem Amarta, Hashem Mircha. All of these things are things that are interrelated, and they all mean something in the context. Okay, so besides Tzedek Bekul Rav, so we said, I think we said last time that the Bekul Rav here is talking, he says it's 5 times Havaya, with the 5 Havayas, is referring to the 5 Chasudim. So there's five Chasudim opposed to 5 Gevurus. So here he's talking about being Meyachad, the 5 Chasudim. Hinei Sefusai Loi Echlo. So now we talked about before the whole the head, the whole face is also all the features of the face, the eyes, nose, mouth, whatever the eyes, nose, mouth, ears. Each one it also refers to one of the 10 spheres. So this is the head itself is like 10 spheres, as opposed in addition to the entire body, where the head is only one part. So actually 3. Three moicha. So you've got that. So every aspect of the face. So the sfusim, the sosayim, the lips are connected netzach and hoyt, which are also connected the legs. So that's the lower elements. So again, we have to unify everything. So we're starting in with the lower ones. We said is this raglea yodas mavis. That's like the bottom ones that could be left out, and then that they might not be included in the kedusha. So no, don't leave those out. And they're also connected imminent b'tochan. So it's also talking about because that's really the foundation. That's what we walk with. That's what we have to. That's a constant thing we have to have every day. Is the that's how we walk. That's how we go. And also it's connected to Richa Kodesh. That the sphere associated with prophecy is also hoid. So that's it. And that's a kodesh. Also talked about being victorious in battle and then praising Hashem afterwards. That's and hoid are very interrelated and they always go together. So anyway, so hine sefusai lo echlo. So don't hold back. Don't. When you're bringing about this geula, you should include these levels of the society of the netzach v'hoy, that they should also be raised up on this higher level. That Shema Atal Yadata, that the Yadata, the idea is also going on the Zivik. So it's like Udam Yodo Es Chava. So the idea of Yadiyah is the idea of a Zivik. So that's also included, this idea of completeness, and bringing everything together, all the levels all together at once. Okay, tzidkoska loy chisisi besoich libi iminos v'chioska marti loy yichadeti chalizach v'amitka l'korah. Okay, so now he's going to the next level. So he's saying, remember this idea that we talk about all the time. It's very big emphasis in the Arizal Kabbalah anyway. Is this idea that there's Yaakov and Leah and Rachel, right? So you've got these 2 feminine levels on the top and the bottom, like the bookends, right? You got Keser and Chochmah, but they're very hidden. And then where it really starts to come into some kind of being revealed, the whole world gets revealed. It starts with Bina, which is Leah. Okay, that's the feminine aspect on top. And that's also where Dinam start to come out.
It's also?
The Dinam start to come out from there also.
Thank you.
Okay, then we've got this whole Zer Anpin, which is the 6 midas, which is as a whole is called Tiferes, and that's the idea of Yaakov. And then you've got on the bottom Malchus, which is Rachel. Okay, so we talk about there has to be a zivig between Yaakov and Leah and Rachel, meaning that Tiferes, the middle section, has to be united with Bina on top and also Malchus on the bottom, and there has to be this Zachar and the Keva, this Mashpia Makabel going on between both of them. Okay, so that's like a fundamental understanding. So,
and is there a parallel where Esav would have fitted into this?
Esav is the Sidraka. That's the whole thing in Klippa.
If he would have married Leah.
Oh. I guess then that he wouldn't have been Sidrach anymore. Then he would have been brought into the Kedusha. But that didn't happen.
Or Dinah.
Yeah, Dinah, I'm not sure where she fits into it.
No, if she would have married.
Yeah, I'm saying in terms of where she is on the scale, I don't know. I haven't seen that spoken about. But anyway, so Tzidkoscha. So he says that Tzidkoscha is talking about Ema, about Bina. And it happens to be that it's also 4 times the gematria of Ekya, which is the Shem of I, which is associated with that, and which is according to the gematrias with the Miluim, which is Kif Men Gimel, and it comes all together to Fresh Yud Vav. So that's Sikos. So that's talking about this level of Bina. Loiki Sisi V'Soich Libi. So that you should not, again, Hoive is a little confusing here. Loiki Sisi is Lashon Ovar, and it's kind of hard to figure that out. But he's saying that it should not be, rather that this moichin of Ema should also illuminate. Because I should have that level of understanding of Ema. Emunascha Omarti, because Emunascha is this, again, is talking about this level of the. He explains how that is. It's really complicated. That Emunascha also is associated with the moichin of Ema of Bina, and then it comes down to Chioscha is this idea of Kois Yeshias. So there's obviously Kois Yeshias Ekro. Kois Yeshias. We're always talking about the Kois Yeshias, right? So the Yeshias, he says, is talking about the Chokmah Chesed Gvur Tiferes. Okay, so now we've moved up. So before we were talking about Netzach and Hoig, which is on the bottom. Now we're moving up to what's called the Zroyas. It's the right hand, left hand. That's Chesed and Gvura, and that's it's a Hava and Yira. So we moved up, and it was now. Before we started, we said first he's asking, please don't separate out the Netzach and Hoig, the Munah B'tochen or whatever. That's bring that up. Now you have to work on the Hava of Yira, and that's really the way it goes. First, a person has to acknowledge that Hashem exists, and he has to basically work on his emunah, because if he doesn't really believe that Hashem is here and he has a relationship with Hashem, then how can he love him or fear him? And that's another thing I wanted to say is that when we talk about that Hashem reveals himself in the world, even on a basic level, what we're saying is that Hashem is behaving within the world. He's running the world in a certain way, and he's causing things to happen in our lives. We perceive his interaction with us in such a way that it inspires a Hava and Yira. So then we in a way that on the one hand it can be in a very strong way, where we respond with awe. Whether it's perceiving an amazing landscape or something, or a sunset or something like that, or on the other hand, we're experiencing a clap, a patch, whatever it is. It could be something that's that gives us zets, and then we have to we have to think about it. So that's another thing that's yira. But then a hava can be when something beautiful happens, and when you have a beautiful relationship with someone, or whatever it is that brings to a level of a hava, and that's also a relation of Hashem. So Hashem is inspiring us to respond to Him in this, using all these midas. And the more complete we are within those midas, if a person is imbalanced too much in favor of one than the other, then that's he has to try to correct that balance. Everybody b'tzad the neshama has a natiyah, has a certain leaning to go one side or another side. But the idea is we're always having to try to balance things up more, because when we go too far to one level, we have to balance it up with the other level, and that's one of the beautiful things of understanding the structure of Tzelem Elokim. When you understand how things are balanced, you understand that you have to counter something with another thing. When you go too far one way, you have to bring it back the other way. Okay, so he's saying now we have to bring it up to the level of this.
Except the bad midah.
Huh?
I think the Rambam or a lot of Muslims forums speak about if someone has, God forbid, a bad midah like anger. Mm-hmm. Some of the ways to like rip it out from the person is to go to the extreme of the other side.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
40 days on the other extreme.
You go to the other extreme.
Yeah, but that's only temporarily, right? But
I guess until it comes back.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
It's like rebalancing. Yeah.
That's if it's extreme, then you have to balance it the extreme way. If it's not so extreme, then you don't want to go overboard. It's like a person went he was 10 pounds overweight, and he went on a hunger fast for 40 days. It would be too much already. But if it was 400 pounds overweight and he did that, it would probably be appropriate. So you have to know where you're holding. Okay. So anyway. So all of these things should be elevated to that all of the spheres that are within Malchus should have this elevation. basically. So all of this should be raised up. So that's the idea that because there's this feminine on top and the feminine on the bottom, so our whole job is to elevate the lower level to the higher level, and to elevate Malchus and go all the way up to Bina. That's this elevation that we experience when a person feels like they've been lifted up. This is the idea of being uplifted, is that you're experiencing the fact that Malchus, which is really on the bottom, we're bringing it up to be on a much higher level. So it's because it has where to be reunited with on the top. Okay. Hashem. So this is and then Martin goes back to this Hashem Hamircha Hayoim, which is a lashon of Hisroimamis, of being raised up, on a very high level. So now the Kol Rav that he was saying before was an idea of Rav Chesed. Over here, he's saying that it's talking about. What is it saying here? This Yesoid Abba. So here, all of a sudden, it's raised. We're talking about now a whole other aspect. That when we get up to this level now, we can start to talk about Chochmah. And Chochmah is a level of Chesed. So as opposed to the Bina, which is associated with Din, Kavira, and Chochmah, which is next to, which is Keneged Bina, is the side of Chesed. So now we're trying to get to that level. We can bring that down. And there's this idea of Yesoid of Abba, the Yesoid of Chochmah, which is the Mashpia of Abba that allows it to be Mashpia on Bina. So that's Hamtakas Dinim. Because if there's Dinim in Bina by unifying it with Chochmah, which is from the side of Chesed, then we're able to be mounting those dinim and to correct them so they're not so harsh. That's how you're mevad the tzaddikim are mevad gzeirus, is that they're able to connect the bina with the chachma, and then that sweetens until they get turned around.
What is the word kachadati?
It's also kichad is also this withholding. I know the exact.
It's got concealed.
Yeah, concealed. Okay. So don't conceal these things that they should not illuminate me. So remember, the Chochmah and Bina on the level of Moichin. That's the idea of illumination. Okay, that's where we get the light from. That's where the light comes down from. Chaz the which are the Chasudim of Chasudim and Yisoid Abba are coming down, and they're going to be mayor. We're trying to get them to illuminate. That's the whole point. And what does illumination mean? I mean, they're always shining very brightly. It's a question of our ability to be able to be makabel that. Once we have to open ourselves up to see the light, open your eyes, see the light. A person goes outside, a person can be depressed. The Mishnah said something about a person who go out in the bright days of Tammuz, and the bright light, and for him it's dark. He doesn't see the light because he's so closed up. He's with blinders on, or he's depressed, or whatever it is. His own tzuris. He doesn't see how bright it is outside. So the idea is, again, put yourself aside a little bit, or look at the bright side of your own life, or whatever it is, to be able to makabel that brightness which is there all the time. Or he says that Yitzrini it says Tomid Yitzrini. So Yitzrini is gematria Shin Sanachei 365, which is the days of the solar year. So he says even though the days of the lunar year are only 354. So he's saying that in the future, and this is the whole thing, is that the future, the light of the moon is going to be like the light of the sun. So what does that mean? It means that the lunar year is also going to be 365 years.
So the Earth's magnetism is changing, actually right now.
Yeah.
So maybe this is the alignment that comes where the planets will be.
The lunar.
The lunar year is going to become like the solar year. It's going to be 365 days.
Does he give the source?
Huh? Does he give the source for this?
What?
That's what he says. It's going to be the years of the lunar year is going to be the same thing as the solar year.
It's not going to mean that the light of the moon is going to be as bright as the sun, right?
No, it doesn't.
So how are we ever going to sleep?
They won't have to.
You'll be up.
Great awakening.
You'll be glowing and basking
Sleep
in the
is
Giloi.
Tatas Amoichan, it's like that.
Oh, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some
spiritual
period with,
light.
To say what's spiritual and what's physical is very difficult. He gave Fisher gave this drusha today, right? His long drusha. So one of the things he said was that the gliskuas this Rav Akiva, whatever, he showed this the wheat with the chaff, as opposed to the biscuit, the cake or whatever. That's that's purified everything. Which is better? The works of Hashem, the works of man. So it says. So I brought up to him afterwards. It says in the Medrash that that it will see Lovoi, Mashiach comes. So the earth itself is going to bring forth Miskos. It itself is going to bring complete food. Right. So what does that mean? Does that mean that the wheat isn't going to have any chaff anymore? Does it mean that we're not going to have to do anything to do it? But then on the other hand, you have the man. And the man was a complete food for those that were on the level that didn't have to. There were those that didn't have to prepare it, and it was a complete. They got all the tamin from it. So there is such a thing as a food that could be prepared, which doesn't require any processing at all, and still.
Why do we have to eat food if we're spiritual beings? Why will we need to sustain ourselves if we're not physical?
I don't know. These are all. It's a process. In other words,
maybe we won't. Maybe we won't need food.
It is a question at what point. In other words, it's a gradual thing. There are different stages of Olam Haba.
Yeah.
It doesn't just happen all at once, and it's not all one thing. So there's obviously they say that the first stage is there's no difference between now and then, except for that where the Shiva Malch is, and the Mason will be fairly soon afterwards. But then until we become totally, there's this whole thing about whether we're going to be just souls on earth, or are we going to be souls in bodies, but that has an eternal, that itself has an eternal life. So these are all discussions, and whatever it is, we will never know until it happens.
Have you heard of a breatharian? They live on fresh air, on chayut. They live on cosmic energy.
Is it really true, or is it not?
But the interesting thing, the Hebrew word for life is chai, right. And in Chinese it's chi, and in Japanese it's ki. It's the same chai, ki, chi. In Sanskrit it's prana. It's this cosmic energy, this life force that you can. So they say that through your sinuses you can absorb energy, just through, it's called breatharianism, where you take your body to that level.
Reading is good.
Okay, Yud Gimel. Ki afafi ulai ruois ad ein mispar hisigene av noisai v'lo yecholti lirois otzmi misaves roishli v'libi azuroni. So now he's taking a step backwards. He's saying, looking back on the surahs of the past. Because this is also part of the whole picture, is that there's this negative aspect of what we experienced. See, ki ofviolai ruois are mispa ofvi. I'm not sure what does it say? Translate ofvi.
For innumerable evils have enclosed me.
Evils without number have encircled me.
Encircled? Ofvi is.
I've got enclosed.
Okay. So these. Ein Mispar, he says Ein Mispar is referring to the idea that, as we've talked about before, that all of the spheres leave, and like the only ones left is Keser, which is just like an Akuda. So the only thing we have left, and that's called Ein Mispar. It's like it doesn't even have you can't even count it. In other words, it's not, it doesn't count. It doesn't count. It's on one side it's infinite, on the other side, in this context, is talking about like we don't have any other midas. There's nothing left, and the only thing we have left is something that's imperceptible, because you can't comprehend it. So it's there. So that's we haven't been cut off from Hashem totally, but in terms of anything that we can appreciate or understand or derive any benefit from, nothing. When a person goes to Tzuris at that point, Elaine, you can think about, even going through the Holocaust. They weren't thinking about anything. It was like, there was an interesting story, article we read recently about some Rebbe, an unknown Rebbe that was in the camps in Dachau, and he led a seder in Dachau, in the middle of the war, and he got them to get together, whatever they could. He got some flour and they baked some matzah, whatever. It was an amazing thing. So
that's still in Mitzrayim, making a seder.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, could
they have even said they were free men? Could they? That must have been some seder. Just thinking.
Yeah, but they didn't have a head for it. It was like, what are you talking about? What are you gonna do this here? And he had it. And he had that vision, but they pulled it off. Anyway, so Ruiz ad ein mispar. So this that it encircled me these terrible things until the level of ein mispar, to the point where there was like nothing left virtually. So that's another aspect. So on the one hand, we have all these tzuras, but on the other hand, no. Okay. On the other hand, it's my how did it come? Through our Averis. So through our Averis, we couldn't see anymore. So we did it to ourselves, in a sense. The fact that we did the Averis cut us off so that we couldn't see. And also misaros roish v'libi azavoni. So this is because we do the Averis, then it cuts us off from the Ruchnius, and then it's that much harder for us to get back. And that's why we need the Tzuras then to hit us enough so that we finally at least cry out to Hashem that we want to try to get back, even though we don't have any head left. So atzim misaros roishi, the saros is always referring to the dinim. It's the part of this. The saros is also the dinim. He says, the real dinim is the saros. That's one of the reasons why we cut our hair very short, is to be mamad in the dinim. Except for the beard, which is that's the harachman, the beard, referring to the beard.
And the payas.
Right. So he said that these dinim got so bad that my heart left me. There's nothing, no yeshiva das, no simcha, no nothing. This is from all these dinim. So now he's going to turn around and bring it back to Hashem. Hashem, save me. So say Hashem latzileni. You should save me from all this, rescue me, be able to escape from all this. And the Rutzen, he says, should go up before the Ein Sof. And he should bring down this light from Atika Kedisha, he Eitz Rutzen. So that's the Ritzei Hashem Latzileni. So that's the need of Rutzen. Is Atika Kedisha. It's this very high level of the light on the level of Keser, that this should come down and bring me out of this and save me from this. Hashem le'ezusi chisha. And Hashem, the Shem Havai itself, which is also a bechina of Chesed, that should immediately come to my aid. Into my aid. So the chisha is the idea of this that it should be akishena and loy be'ita, that the gil should come, immediately, not wait around. So those forces which are trying to that are getting together and trying to chap my nefesh, trying to the mavakshin nafshi, they're trying to seeking to pull my nefesh down, it's spoisa, and that they should be yevoisha, that they should be dried up. Yisoigi ochor ve'yikolmi chafetze rusi, that all those that desire my bad things for me, that they should be forced backwards and they should be destroyed. And this is all talking about the Sitra Achra, obviously. And this, in fact, he brings it down. This is various aspects of the Sitra Achra, because just as in Kedusha there are all these different levels, so there's all the different levels in the Sitra Achra also. It's not just one thing. So it's attacking us on all these different levels. So sometimes also the Sitra Achra can look good, or it can look weird. Sometimes you can be afraid of it. Sometimes you can excite our temptations, whatever it is. It's all different aspects, and it's trying to get us from all directions. And so it has to be fought. It has to be fought from all directions as well. And it shouldn't have any achiza in the kedusha. It shouldn't be able to grab onto any aspect of kedusha. Or he says yisaga ocha v'kolmi befunim. So that's the idea of ochar and punim. That there's a back side and a front side, and it should be wiped out from both of them. Okay, yishoimi al ekev boshtan v'ha'oimim li he'ach he'ach. That they should be again the Sitra Achra, which is yoinik. It's getting its nervous and suckles, getting its nourishment from the ikvei leah, which is Leah against the binas, from the kovim of Leah. One way you could, which is also interesting, 2 times the word Elokim is gematria Ekev. So it's like twice this idea of Elokim. So he says that this is the idea of the Anuvim shesachta Chava. The Chava squeezed the grapes by the Chet Eitzadas. So that is that's what this is referring to.
Ekev is like from the root of Yaakov.
Yeah.
Did they talk about that?
Ekev. So right. So Ekev is the heel, and the heel is the back part. That's where the Sitra Achra gets its nourishment from the Chin of Ekev. So they should also be destroyed. Yishayim is the Lashon Shimuman, which should be destroyed, and Boshtam, they should have this embarrassment or whatever, should be disgraced. And this is because they want to take away the illumination of the Shin Ayin Nahoirin. This is the 370 lights that are shining onto the Zohar and the Keva. Because they want to block those lights, so we want to get rid of them. And they also say they say to me he'ach he'ach. So it's like it's like an expression. It's hard to translate it in terms of like a hooray hooray or something, like they're trying to rally the forces against us. But he says that he'ach is actually referring to Zeir Anpin, and I don't know why. I don't know how he gets Zeir Anpin from Ach. But it's something about 9 spheres, maybe excluding Keser or something like that. And it's 2 times because it's referring to Yaakov and Leah and also Yaakov and Rachel. Okay.
Gematria Ha'ach is 13.
Oh, He'ach, yeah, right.
No, it's not. It's 14.
14, yeah, 14. So it also doesn't make sense.
2 times 13
is that right. So it might be because of that. Maybe the 7. Maybe it's a 7 midas, even though Zeir Anpin is really only 6 midas. But, I don't know exactly. Anyway. Okay. So again, those that seek you should ultimately reach a level of simcha. And simcha is, of course, the ultimate, result of all this, through all this revelation and all this yichud and all this, illumination, everything else. Simcha, that's what the whole thing is going for. And that's why I'm kind of you can understand a little bit what Chabad is talking about, that simcha without moichin is not really what it's supposed to be. In other words, it's simcha, even though there is an Indian to be b'simcha, but if trouble is, if simcha without any kind of intellect at all is very often will lead to hoylus. It's just going to get silly. It's not going to be any toichin to it. Whereas if it's simcha that's coming out of illumination, that an illumination can mean many things. Because an illumination of chesed, illumination of gevira also, it's not just illumination of the level of davka moichin, but whatever, it's got to have some kind of toichin there also. So, and then you've got what it comes to is this level of yomi sumid yigdal Hashem oevei shiyosechu. That ultimately you get to this idea of sumid, which is that it's going to be constant.
What is sumid?
Tumid.
Tumid,
always.
Oh, sorry, I didn't understand.
Yeah, so anyway, because ultimately, when they get to this level of the shtei meluchim mishtamshim keser echad, that you get to this level of constance, and that's why we don't need the day and night. We don't need the rutz of a shoiv so much. We don't need the this positive and negative so much. It's more an idea of 2 equals and being more of a constant thing, and it's not this tiny. It says that there's no tiny. There's tiny to me, ain't a tiny. That if a tiny which is constant is not tiny, it seems to be more in Olam Hazeh. But in Olam Haba, apparently we seem to transcend that limitation. So, and that's Oyavi Shiyosechu, and Shiyosechu is again this idea of Chesed Gvir and Tiferes together with Zeir Anpin, and that brings Shias. And Va'ani uni ve'evyon Hashem yochshavli. So he brings out that only the evyon is like hold myself to be on a very low level, or even when I am on a very low level. And Adna is also the same referring to Malchus, which is on the bottom. Yochshavli and Chashav is on the level of Machshava, which is the Moichin, which is the highest level. So again, we're bringing the lowest level up to the highest level. Ezrusi mefalti atu. So Ezrusi is my help, but also mefalti is usually used this idea of mefalit, your poilet, and when the Mesitra Achra gets rid of all of the netzitzis, it gives up, it like expels all the netzitzis that it's been holding. So that's the idea of mefalit, and we're plating.
The person is free.
Yeah,
it feels like a sign of like a kind of freedom.
Right. It's like kabbalah kach poltoi, right? Listen to polit, that like a blia gives out. So if something that's been absorbed has to be given out. So the idea is that the Kimbola Muvas Lanetzach is the idea that the Sitra Achra is boileya. It swallows up these nitzitzis, and then when Mashiach comes, it's going to give out all of the nitzitzis again, and all this Kedusha is going to be able to escape and be elevated to its proper level.
So Sitra Achra is capturing the sparks of Kedusha now?
Yeah.
What for? I thought he's on the side of evil, on the side of Tumah.
No,
it needs energy.
He's it's like a black hole. He's absorbing all that energy and not allowing
What does he want
it.
it for?
To sustain it.
For care, yeah, right. He gets the sustenance from that also.
Yunuka, it's like
That's the
sakral.
Yunuka, right.
That's where they get the energy.
Right, exactly. And you see it. I mean, it's mamash b'chish. You see it mamash b'chish. You know that they're the very fact that the goyim are always running after the Yidden. Just leave us alone. What do they need us for? What do they have to have anything to do with us? What are they bothering with us for? They're always running after
It angers them so much that we have delight.
Yeah, exactly. So why?
No, but they
Why?
also want us
because
to
they're
fall
getting
because
it.
then they can.
It's like
that's the only way they can
it's
get-
like a parasite. The parasite doesn't understand that if it kills the body of the person, it is also going to die because it's not going to have any nourishment after that.
But ultimately, they also need the geula. They need the geulas for.
That's true, right? And I guess that's where the evangelical Christians get that thing also, which is also very weird that they should all of a sudden turn around and say, "Oh yes, yeah, you really have to have you have to have Mashiach." But although I've heard that there's another thing in Revelations or something where they say that after the third Beis Hamikdash, they're going to come in and destroy it and then get the upper hand. So we have to get the third. We have to get the third Beis Hamikdash in order for them to have their.
Do they not read anything that there won't be a fourth? The third is the final one.
Yeah, well, a little bit disappointed. Okay, just go. So I don't think we're gonna get together next week. It's just have to be there for my wife and that kind of stuff. So So we'll take a little vacation for a couple of weeks.
And we have Pesach, so
Pesach or after?
Yeah, after Pesach.
after Pesach.
And then we'll be in touch whether it be right after Pesach or not, because there is usually the last week of Benizman, we'll see.
You're going to daven in Tolna, or you're going to daven in Tolna?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm parked at the same place, 3 cars up at the end of this lane. You just go up, the same as yesterday, or 4 cars up.
Fine. Okay, so everybody should have a Felach Yom Tov, and all the Toivus, and see you in the Hashem. Looking forward to it. It's a whole question, because on the one hand they say that the Torah are going to be bottled, except for Purim. It's a whole thing, because it's going to be the final Gula is going to eclipse